This video will be a breakdown on how Update, Kim Kardashian's new company, is using influencers. And what we're going to do is analyze what's good, what's not, and what are the takeaways for your own influencer campaign. I'm Dennis, and at Influencer Advisory, we're a data influencer company. And what we do is we collect data that helps brands have the best chance of running successful influencer campaigns. So if you're a supplement or beverage brand and you're looking to scale your influencer campaign, this is for you. So diving into it, this is actually quite a rare opening because what they're actually doing is swapping caffeine for paraxanthine. Now, all that simply means is it's an energy stimulant without the associated negative connotation of caffeine. Now, a lot of the time, what we see is the problem when it comes to an introduction like this. It's not just about awareness of the fact the drinks exist. It's about the fact that because it's caffeine free, it still works, right? So if we actually look at some of the past victors in the space, so people that were in the position of Update, that includes Celsius, Alan Nui, Ghost, Red Bull, and Monster. They effectively took the role of an all-purpose energy drink. Now, the strategic route is not to actually follow that. It's instead to have its own category because that's going to make selling the value proposition a lot easier to people. So what we've recommended and what we thought of is actually owning just the lane of, hey, this is focused energy, but without the caffeine. So what Kim Kardashian has to do is create a habit. Because if it's not a habit, what's going to happen is, I don't have it here, but sales are going to spike up, but then they're going to dwindle down as people just try it once because Kim Kardashian uses it, but they don't continue on with it. So if we just look at some stats over here, we actually see that energy drinks are an absolutely huge market. So there's lots of potential here. And it's even launched in a bunch of D2C stores. And yeah, it's doing really well. But it is in fact dominated with, a few brands taking a lot of the market. So, Update is going to have to be pretty creative with how it approaches the situation. And by the way, if you are watching as another supplement brand, these same takeaways would apply to you as well. But we first have to start by looking at the history of Update, as with any brand, to understand where is it coming from, because that'll help us predict where the future of its influencer campaign will go. So it was actually started in 2022, with a while back, but didn't get traction, so it was relaunched in 2026 with Kim Kardashian as a co-founder, right? Pricing is modest, and basically what's happening is they're sitting at an intersection of a bunch of different categories. This includes energy, nootropics, and better for you refreshment, right? Now, if we actually analyze value prop by value prop, the main one is the fact that it uses paraxanthine instead of caffeine. The fact that Kim Kardashian is owner, the fact that it also had a pretty creative experiential marketing pop-up launch, and the fact that it's already got some retail distribution. So with that being said, we could look at now, where is the brand going to go? So their objectives for Q4 was getting 20 new SKUs, getting to more than 14,000 retail. There's 100,000 points of distribution. It's very, very ambitious. And to get there, what they've already tried was first focusing on the science behind it, getting Kim Kardashian as an ambassador. And what they actually did was host a program called Focus Lab, which actually made it interactive between viewers and the audience and the product itself. And they actually started building out some subscription infrastructure and education infrastructure through blog posts and a bunch of educational resources because a lot of people need to be convinced of the science of paraxanthine before trying it. However, what looks like one of the biggest gaps right now is the fact that they don't have any way to capture behavior and make habits. Now, research found that on average you need 66 days to form a habit for people. So people need some incentive to continue buying it and create that recurring behavior. And at the time, there's not a lot of social proof, which might make it hard for people to go the extra mile and continue onwards. But let's look at what other people are doing in the space and how they've overcome this problem. So Alan, we actually started by narrowing down on their avatar. So they literally just made a female-focused functional wellness people, and that allowed them to get over 1 billion in sales. Ghost, for example, kind of took everything, but what they did was really focused on creating distinct flavors that people really resonated with. And then Celsius just decided to buy everyone out, which allowed them to create some advantages there. So looking what could get into updates way, we see that it could be some skepticism. So this just comes with doubling down on the education, creating more compelling copy. Claims are also outpacing substantiation. So as an influencer agency, we always say make sure you never have creators say medical claims. Now, the difference here is medical claim is something that's a fact, whereas personal claim is your experience. So you could say, hey, update made me feel really energized. But that's different than saying update makes you feel energized. That small language can actually be under a lot of FTC scrutiny. So make sure that you always go with the safer side. And there's a ton of resources. We have a ton of documents as well that'll help you get the wording right. And that's why you always just want to pre-review videos before they go out from influencers. What was interesting is actually these two I skipped, by the way, they're not that interesting. But taste is actually a big thing because what happened was C-Store Drive did a survey and they found that 75% of people actually cared about taste. And that makes sense because energy is energy, right? So the only distinguished factor there is what does it taste like before I get the energy. So what we recommend for an influencer campaign is to run a focus group field test. Now, simply what this is you take micro creators across a wide variety of different industries, and then you go ahead and you give them the opportunity to make their own brief and just answer some of the prompts, which all in all is their experience of the actual product. So they'd be able to answer this after receiving the product. Now, what's important here is to actually give them a geo-specific store locator link. What that means is when people click on the URL, it actually remembers which store they select. So you know exactly which store is getting the attribution. This will help you understand which regions are targeted by which influencers and where to double down and where you should target next, especially if you're planning to open stores and do a push with influencers in that specific region where the stores are opening. What we also recommend is actually making a science-based campaign. This always works great with influencers, where you would effectively have the influencers just give an explanation, not a medical claim, but an explanation of what actually the products are, right? You don't want to make it like too specific though. It just has to focus on the outcome that most people are looking for. So typically for something like this, we'd like to do a 6-week burst campaign. So you'll have creator content come first, then sampling at the stores, then retailer media, then a shelf signage with a pre-agreed scorecard. That's not necessary. All that's doing is just measuring how it performs, how the campaign increases sales in every store. But here's basically 4 metrics that you could look at and then how you'd measure them. Awareness and understanding would simply be measured by video completion, which you could actually see on YouTube by the watch time. especially on a short. The creators save and share it, which you can also see on YouTube Studio and Instagram as well, and TikTok actually. Then in terms of the conversion, that you can actually see with the UTM tracking links on a per store basis. And of course, we have tutorials on how to set it up, or tutorials coming soon on how to set up individual per store tracking links that connect from the original UTM in a YouTube video. Simply meaning you can actually track which video brings into sales into what store, or if it's fully D2C, that will allow you to also track that. Now, velocity and availability is something that you have to track on the back end, completely unrelated from the campaign. But this would just be things like what's coming out of stock and what's the sales velocity. And then from there, repeating that advocacy, we always recommend you look at the LTV that comes from this channel. It tends to be warmer because people that buy from influencers tend to buy more often and be more willing to give the product more chances because they've gotten it from basically a warm referral, which is all that an influencer recommendation really is. Hope this video helps you with your influencer campaign. We have more videos that go into details on some tips and tricks like this. And even if one thing was useful, I hope this helped you save a lot of time and make more revenue for your brand.